Hello, and welcome to another Opening the Package, toy collecting with Ian Brady Cannon. Now for this episode, my son had been encouraging me for a little while to do an episode focusing on vintage toys. And this year happens to be the 50th anniversary of G.I. Joe. So, I decided to look at the G.I. Joes from the 80s. So everything here is pretty much the G.I. Joes that came out in the early 80s and lasted into the 90s, and has basically been the inspiration for most of the G.I. Joe toys since then. And the characters and stuff have been rehashed over and over and over again. Mutt! Now you'll notice Mutt is not attached to his legs. I do have his waist down here as well. And this is a common problem with the original Joes, because they had this rubber band that connected their tops to their bottoms. And so the rubber bands would break or slip out, and you have to take them apart to fix them. And we will deal with that here in just a moment. Now, going back to Cobras, some of my favorites. Scrap iron. I liked scrap iron. One, he came with this really cool, at the time it was the biggest accessory with the figure. It was this missile launcher with 2 missiles in it, and it was awesome. And he himself looks good as well. Now, this is not the original, but this is Firefly. It is the original mold, but the paint's actually really well detailed. This was one that came out later in the comic packs. And the only reason I picked him because he's officially not vintage because he's a remake, but he's vintage mold, and he was a cool character that actually had more significance in the comic books in the end than you would have thought. So, and he's another one that came with a lot of accessories. He's got his gun, radio, backpack that opens up, and basically he was a saboteur. Basically, he would go in and be sneaky and make things blow up. So he's a cool character. And where does his gun go? Yep, there it is. Whose gun's that? Oh, it's Zartan's gun. Okay. Then, of course, you have the bat. This is the original bat. They've done a bunch of bats since then. I think I have some of his arms, but if you look, all of them, the pegs are broken, so I can't put him in his backpack. Basically, what it was he had 4 different hand attachments. So you can take him off his arm. This is the gun one. He had flamethrower claw and a regular hand that basically matched his other hand. So you can make a whole army of these bats. They were battle android troopers. And I always thought they were cool. You have a little hologram sticker in the middle there. A fun basic soldier. It was during the time where G.I. Joe started getting sci-fi. First few years they were really more militaristic. Then you got Zartan in there and a few others that led everything to be sci-fi. And the bat definitely fits with the sci-fi aspects of it. This is another odd one. Okay, near the end, when they were getting all gimmicky, they had all sorts of kind of weird off-brand stuff. They had a whole thing about environmentalism, where eco stuff. And of course that was during the time where you had Captain Planet and other eco things coming in. And my son, the one who wanted me to do this, and I think he's enjoying looking through my figures. Anyways, they had a drug one. And you had, I think it was Headmaster, and he had the Headman. Well, I thought something about that figure I thought looked awesome. It's nice and streamlined, and I thought really well done. Everything about him. Now these are supposed to be the generic guards for the. I want to call them the Headmaster. That doesn't sound right, but these were called the Headmen, and I just always thought they were very well done, and I liked the general look of them. So, the way I played him is he was a character in and of himself, and actually took over Cobra at one time, but that was my own little weird off branch of it because I just like this figure. So, a subset of figures I really got into was the Dreadnoughts, which I have at one point or another had all of them. Right now I don't, but I do. I'm going to show you 2 real quick that I need to fix: Buzzer and Zanzibar. And basically both these are obviously broken, but I will once more fix them because it's not that hard to fix. Another broken one that I have Wild Weasel. Now, his significance is he was the first Cobra pilot. He piloted the Rattler, the really cool Cobra jet, the first one that came out. So, he obviously has a significance to him. That's his legs. He has like the maps and books for pilots on there. So, those are the figures I decided to show off for my vintage G.I. Joe collection from the first run. Many of them, the character-wise, have been redone since then. They did do the 30th anniversary set, I want to say. Or was it 25th anniversary set? They did a really cool anniversary set where they took the old characters and redid them in kind of a newer figure style. But I'm not dealing with that today. That may be a future podcast to talk about them because they were really well done. But today was focusing on the vintage ones. So now we will cut to me fixing these figures and showing you kind of how that's done, because G.I. Joe figures do this quite often. Okay, as I said, I was going to show you how to repair a figure. Right here, as you can see, I have repaired my mutt. He is now complete, fresh rubber banded him, nice and sturdy. Now, one reason to do this is because often the rubber bands, see, this is the rubber band I took out of him. It's in real bad shape. They get loose, and the figures won't stand up as well because the legs aren't being pulled in right. So, you know, even if they're not broken, if the legs are really loose, it might be a good idea to replace the rubber bands if you can. And the rubber bands are real easy to replace. Here's the rubber bands. I think I got these for like 50 cents for the whole bag. Probably a little more. I can't remember. I got it from an online site that specialized in G.I. Joes. You'll want a screwdriver. These are basic. Can find them at any hardware sections. Just standard smaller screwdrivers, kind of the stuff you'll use for glasses and such. You may or may not need pliers. Not a bad thing to have around though, just in case. So we are going to fix Buzzer, the Dreadnought. My favorite Dreadnought. He came with the diamond tooth chainsaw. That was really cool. So first thing you do, obviously, is take out the screw, and he will fall apart. Now, and then we take out the rubber band. Now, I actually forgot to show you. This is my Dusty. You'll notice he has different arms that don't go with him. The reason for that is the arms were broken, and we put whatever arms we wanted in to replace it. And, of course, this is how we replaced his arms. You take them apart. So you can replace arms and everything else that way. So here are the legs for Buzzer. You take a fresh rubber band, put it through the hook on the legs, take the waist piece, slip it through the waist. Now this is where you might or might not need pliers depending on how well through it goes. In this case it went through pretty easy. So there you have the legs all together with the waist. Then you take the chest, in this case the back, put the back in like that. And this is where it gets a little tricky, because what's going to happen is that rubber band is going to pull, and if you let it, it'll keep doing that to you. See how it's folding over? So you want to try and get it nice and sturdy, because now you have to put the arms. Oh, hold still. See? It's not as easy as it looks, as everything's trying to come back on you. I normally find if you put the arms down, that makes it a little easier. Then you put the head in. Oh, this ponytail's getting kind of in the way. And then you put the chest in. Now, for most part, the G.I. Joe's arms and legs and stuff are actually interchangeable, except for sometimes the arms are a little different in the piece that holds them into the body. There's some that are thicker and won't quite fit in some of the bodies. And then there's issues with the heads. Basically, for the first 3 years, the heads could only turn like this, while on the 4th year, they made a ball joint that make him turn like that. So, while technically Buzzer is a 4th year one, obviously he was a 3rd year mold. So, you could not interchange these guys' heads. However, I could interchange these guys' heads because they are both the same style of head. So, just in case you do custom figures with the G.I. Joes, which I have done in the past. And then, of course, you want to screw that screw in. Sometimes they like being stubborn. Like in this case. Gotta get just right. There we go. Now it should be good. And so you tighten them up. he's practically as good as new, outside of his basic wear and tear. In fact, this is one of my better condition figures if you look at him. He's in real good shape, and now he's complete. So that is a trick all people who collect these G.I. Joes should know. Real simple to do. Now sometimes this will happen because the rubber band unhooked from the metal hook there, in which case that's definitely when you need the pliers and you can go in and pull them out. In the case of these guys, they're clearly all broken, so I'm not worried about that. But I do remember that happening way back when, for whatever reason, you're pulling and you pull the legs out. And that's definitely where the pliers come in, unless you want to actually take them apart and redo it the way I did it. But that is how you fix your G.I. Joes. And it's definitely something worth knowing because it keeps them in good shape and makes them, worth having instead of a bunch of pieces. Okay, so that is it for my vintage G.I. Joe action figure episode. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned. Those of you who've had broken G.I. Joe figures, I hope you understand how to fix them now, because it is cool to be able to fix them up and make them, well, maybe not brand new, but displayable, where they're not all over the place. So, and as always, here's the email if you wish to send any comments, questions, whatever. Thank you.